Hello everyone, this is group 5 and we're gonna answer the questions from the PDF. From R1, 5 non-proprietary internet application and their application layer protocols. 1. Electronic mail. Uses SMTP, which is Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. Number 2. Remote Terminal Access. It uses Telnet. Number 3. Web. Uses HTTP or Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Number 4 is File Transfer. It uses FTP or File Transfer Protocol. Number 5 is Internet Telephony, which uses SIP, which is Session Initiation Protocol, or RTP, Real-Time Protocol. That's it. Problems 29. Changes in UDP client.python with client socket bind. Will it become necessary to change UDP server.python? No, it is not necessary to change UDP server.python because the server is still listening to its own predefined port. Binding the client socket to a specific port does not affect the server configuration. Number 2. Port numbers for socket. In UDP client, the port number will be 5432, while in UDP server, the port number remains 12,000, as defined in the server's code. Number 3. Port numbers before making the change. In UDP client, the port number was dynamically assigned by the operating system from the range 1024 to 65535, as no specific port was bound. In UDP server, the port number was 12,000, as explicitly set in the server code. That's it.
For problem P25, we are given an overlay with n active pairs, where each pair of pair has an active TCP connection. The TCP connection passes through a total of m routers. We need to determine the number of nodes and edge in overlay networks. The solution is number 1. Nodes in the overlay networks. In an overlay network, the primary nodes are the n active pairs. The m routers are typically not considered as a part of the overlay network itself, but rather as of part underlying physical networks. And number 2 is edge in the overlay network. If each pair of pair has an active TCP connection, this means the network is a complete graphic, fully connection graph.
Okay, question R3. In communication session between a pair of processes, the client is the process that initiated the communication by sending a request to the server. Is typically request service, data, or resource from the server. The server is process that wait for and respond to the client request. It provides the request service, data, or resource. In summary, client intended the request, server respond to the request. Okay, next P26. A. Can Bob receive a complete copy of the file without uploading? Yes, it is possible, but independent on the behavior of other peers in the swarm and the specific implementation of the BitTorrent protocol. How? BitTorrent relies on a tit-for-tat mechanism where peers prioritize sharing data with those who upload to them. However, some peers consider might upload data to anyone, even if don't receive anything is returned. If there are enough seeders in the swarm, Bob can download the entries file without uploading anything. This is because seeders already have the completed file and are not dependent on reciprocity. What is possible? BitTorrent does not enforce strict rules to prevent free riding, while the protocol encourages sharing. It does not completely block free riders from downloading. B. Can Bob make his free riding more efficient using multiple computers? Yes, it's possible. but anexial and violates the spirit of the BitTorrent protocol.
After that, I want to answer the question in P27. Let's break down these two scenarios. Scenario 1, mixed audio and video in one file. In this case, each video version is combined with each audio version into one file. The server stores one file per combination of a video and audio version. The first one, and video versions, each video has a different rate and quality. And the second one is an audio version, and that's each audio has a different rate and quality. Each combination of a video version and an audio version will need a separated file. Therefore, the total number of files the server needs to store is the product of the number of video versions and the number of audio versions. Number of files equal n kali n equal n quadrat. Scenario B, separated audio and video streams. In this case, the server sends the audio and video streams separately and the client is responsible for synchronizing them. The first one is an video version and the server stores each video version separately. The second one is an audio versions, the server stores each audio version separately. Since the audio and video streams are stored separately, the server needs to store all the video files and all the audio files. Therefore, the total number of files the server needs to store is the sum of the number of video files and the number of audio files. In conclusion, a scenario A, the server needs to store n quadrat files. Therefore, scenario B, the server needs to store 2 n files.
Alright, so now I will answer the P28. A. Suppose you run the TCP client before you run TCP server. What happens and why? If TCP client is start before TCP server, the client will attempt to establish a connection to the server's IP and port. Since TCP requires a connection to be established before communication, the connection attempt will fail, and the client will likely display an error such as connection refused because there is no server listening on the specified port. B. Suppose you run the UDP client before you run UDP server. What happens and why? If UDP client is start before UDP server, the client will send a UDP packet to the specified server IP and port. Since UDP is connectionless, the packet will be sent even if there are no server running. However, because no server is listening, the packet may be lost or ignored, and the client may not receive any response. C. What happens if you use different port numbers for the client and server sides? If the clients and server use different port number, the client's request will be sent to the wrong port and the server will not receive the request. In TCP, this will result in connection refuse because the server is not listening on the expected port. And last, in UDP, the packet will be sent but if the server is not listening on that port, it will never receive the message, and the client may not receive a response. So that's all. Thank you.
R4. For a P2P file sharing application, do you agree with the statement, there is no notion of client and server sides of a communication session? Why or why not? The statement is largely correct in emphasizing that P2P systems don't have a fixed client and server architecture. However, it's more accurate to say that the roles of a client and server are dynamic and depends on the context and situation rather than non-existent. Each peer can assume the role of a client or a server depending on the communication session. First assignment is to make a web server, and how you do it is there are 9 steps, and the first one is to import the socket module. First, you need to import it, which provides the necessary networking capabilities to create and read and manage network connections. The second step is to define the server function. You define the function called start_server, and that takes two optional parameters, which are host and port. The default host is 127.0.0.1, which is the local host, and the default port is 8080. And the third step is to create and bind the socket. Inside the function, we need to create a socket object using the socket.socket function, and then we need to specify AF_enet for IPv4 and sock_stream for TCP. And then you bind the socket into the specified host and port. The fourth step is to listen for connections. We set the server to listen for incoming connections with a backlog of 1, which means it can handle one connection at a time. The fifth step is to accept connections. We enter a loop where the server waits for a client to connect, and when a connection is accepted, we print the client's address. The sixth step is to receive the HTTP request. The server would receive the HTTP request from the client and decodes it from bytes to a string. We then parse the request to determine the requested file. The seventh step is to handle the request. We try to open the requested file, and if the file is not found, if the file is found, we read its contents and prepare a 200 OK response. If the file is not found, we prepare a 404 not found response. The eighth step is to send the response. We send the HTTP response back to the client, which includes the header and the body. The header contains the status code and the content type. The ninth step, or the last step, is to close the connection. After sending the response, we need to close the connection to free up resources. The second assignment, which is UDP Pinger. The next program we need to write is a program where we create a ping program. And how you make that? There are 6 steps. The first one is importing the modules. So we need to import the socket module for networking and the time module to measure the round trip time. The second step is to create the UDP socket. You create it with the socket.socket function with AF_enet for IPv4 and sock_dgrad for UDP. We need to set a timeout of 1 second with using the function setTimeout (1). And then the third step is to send ping messages. We need to loop 10 times to send 10 ping messages, and for each message, record the start time and send a message to the server using the send_to function. The fourth step is receiving PONG messages. To receive a PONG message from the server, we need to use the receive from function. And if a message is received, we need to calculate the RTT by subtracting the start time from the current time. The fifth step is to handle timeouts. So how you do that is, if there is no response within 1 second, we need to catch the socket.timeout exception and then print a timeout message. The last step is to close the socket. After we send all 10 ping messages, we need to close the socket using the close function.
The next one, I want to answer the assignment 3 first. This is a Python program that implements a simple mail client using the isMTP protocol. Let's walk through the code. The first one, we import the isMTP ILAB library, which allow us to send emails via an isMTP server. We also import meme text and meme multipart to format our email message. The next one, we define the isMTP server details, and in this case, we use ismtp@gmail.com for sending email to a Google Mail server. We also specify port 587, which is the standard port for isMTP with TLS encryption. The next one, we define the sender email, the recipient email, and the login credentials. And for security reasons, you should use an app password instead of your actual password when using Gmail. Then, we construct the email message. We set the sender, recipient, subject, and body of the email. Using meme multipart, we attach the body text in plain format. Now, let's look at the process of sending the email. The first one, we create an SMTP connection using the given server and port. The second one, we enable TLS encryption to secure the connection. The third one, we log in using the sender email and password. And the fourth one, we send the email using the send mail function. And finally, we close the SMTP connection. If the email is sent successfully, we print a success message. And if there is an error, we catch the exception and display an error message. This program demonstrates how email communication works using the SMTP protocol and how to automate email sending with Python. The next one, I want to answer the question assignment 4. This is a Python implementation of a simple web proxy server. Let's go to the code. First, we import the socket and threading libraries. The socket library allows us to send and receive network requests, while threading helps us handle multiple client connections simultaneously. And we define the proxy server details, setting the IP address to 127.0.0.1 and assigning port HHHH for the proxy to listen 1. Now, let's look at the handle client function. When the proxy receives a request from a browser, it reads the first line of the HTTP request to extract the target URL. It then removes the HTTP prefix and separates the host from the requested path. The next one, the proxy establishes a new TCP connection to the target web server using Socket Connect. It forwards the client original request to the web server. Once the server responds, the proxy reads the data and sends it back to the client. Now, let's examine the start proxy function. The first one, the proxy server starts by binding to the defined IP address and port. The second one, it listens for incoming connections. And the third one, when a client connects, it creates a new thread to handle the request. And the last one is this allow the proxy to process multiple requests at the same time. Finally, the proxy runs indefinitely, accepting and forwarding HTTP requests from browser. This project demonstrates how a web proxy works by Arctic.